The Beggars Curse. Alevtina Korzheva had always prided herself on her ability to control her life. Having immigrated from Russia a decade ago, she had built a successful career as a corporate lawyer in Boston, married a loving husband, Michael, and given birth to a beautiful daughter, Emily. Her life was the epitome of the American dream, until one morning changed everything. The day began like any other. Alevtina woke up later than planned, hastily kissed her sleeping husband and daughter, and rushed out of their luxurious downtown apartment. Clicking her heels on the sidewalk, she weaved between pedestrians, mentally rehearsing her upcoming court presentation. That's when she saw him, a hunched old man in dirty rags, extending his hand to passers-by. His unnaturally pale eyes fixed on her, and Alevtina felt a chill run down her spine. "Spare some change, lady. I'm hungry," the beggar rasped, grabbing her sleeve. Panic seized Alevtina. All she could think about was the dirty smudge on her impeccably white blouse and being late for an important meeting. Without thinking, she shoved the old man away. "Get off me!" she cried out, immediately regretting her words. The beggar fell, hitting his head on the sidewalk. A crowd began to gather, and Alevtina, overwhelmed with shame and fear, fled. But the old man's words caught up with her. "You'll regret this! Your family will be cursed!" All day, Alevtina couldn't shake the feeling of guilt, but she forced herself to focus on work. In the evening, returning home, she decided not to tell her family about the incident. "It's just a ridiculous encounter," she convinced herself, helping her daughter with homework. However, strange things soon began happening in their home. Objects moved on their own, whispers echoed from empty rooms, and at night Emily screamed from nightmares. Michael attributed everything to old wiring and a child's imagination, but Alevtina knew the truth. The beggar's curse was real. The climax came when Emily began speaking in a foreign voice, demanding atonement. Alevtina realized she could no longer hide the truth. She confessed everything to her husband and, despite his disbelief, set out to find the beggar. The night streets of Boston seemed like an ominous labyrinth. Every shadow made Alevtina flinch. Every sound made her look around in fear. Finally, she found the old man in the same place she had pushed him. "I'm sorry," she pleaded. "I was wrong. Please lift the curse." The beggar turned slowly, and Alevtina recoiled in horror. His face was distorted, his eyes burning with an otherworldly light. "Too late," he whispered, and the world around Alevtina plunged into darkness. She found herself in a nightmarish version of Boston, where buildings bent at impossible angles and shadows with glowing eyes peered from every alley. Alevtina ran, but each turn brought her face to face with her own guilt and fear. "You ignored the suffering of others. Now suffer yourself," the beggar's voice echoed. At that moment, Alevtina realized it wasn't about the curse. It was about her callousness, her inability to see the humanity in those who needed help. She fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. "I see now. I truly am sorry. Tell me how to make this right." Suddenly, the nightmarish world dissolved, and Alevtina found herself back on the street. The beggar stood before her, but now his gaze was full of compassion. "Understanding, empathy, that's what you denied me," he said softly. Alevtina nodded, truly looking into the old man's eyes for the first time and seeing the reflection of a human soul. She extended her hand, and he accepted it. From that day on, Alevtina's life changed. Every weekend, she and her family volunteered at a homeless shelter. She learned to see the person in everyone she met, regardless of their social status. The beggar was never seen again, but his presence was felt in every good deed, in every moment of compassion. Alevtina understood that the real curse was living with a closed heart, and the real blessing was the ability to empathize and help others. Now, walking the streets of Boston, she often stopped to talk to those she had once ignored. And each time she extended a helping hand, she felt the curse transform into a blessing, changing not only her life, but the lives of those she met along the way. As weeks turned into months, Alevtina's transformation became evident to everyone around her. Her colleagues noticed she was more patient and understanding. Her clients appreciated her increased empathy. But it was her family that saw the most profound change. One evening, as they were preparing dinner together, a new tradition born from their shared experience, Michael paused, looking at his wife with a mixture of love and admiration. "You know," he said, slicing vegetables, "I never really believed in curses. But whatever happened that night, it's made you shine even brighter, Allie." Alevtina smiled, the memory of the nightmarish Boston flickering in her mind. "It wasn't the curse that changed me, Michael. It was the realization that we're all connected. That beggar, he could have been anyone. He could have been me in a different life." Emily, setting the table, chimed in. "Is that why we help at the shelter, Mom? Because we're all connected?" "Exactly, sweetheart," Alevtina replied, her heart swelling with pride. "And every time we help someone, we're really helping ourselves, too." As they sat down to eat, Alevtina glanced out the window. For a split second, she thought she saw a familiar figure on the street below. An old man, now clean and well-dressed, smiling up at her. But when she blinked, he was gone. The curse had been lifted, but its lesson remained. In the end, Alevtina realized, it wasn't about supernatural forces or mystical retribution. It was about the power of empathy, the strength found in vulnerability, and the profound impact of seeing the humanity in every person we encounter. And as she looked at her family, sharing a meal and planning their next volunteer day, Alevtina knew that the real magic wasn't in curses or blessings, but in the everyday choices we make to open our hearts and extend our hands to others.